What's good in the YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 71 here, bringing you another video. Today I'm bringing you a video on Power Rangers Super Ninja Steel episode 8. This episode is called Caught Red-Handed, and this episode is the mid-season finale episode. So that means that there will not be another episode till August of this year. So if you're wondering when that will actually happen, the likely date of the show to return would be August 25th. It could be August 18th, but I'm not suspecting that just because of the fact that Power Morphicon happens on August 18th. And when it comes to Power Morphicon, that's when we get our first details and get to see our first images for the fall half of the season, as well as get our first promotional footage for the next season of Power Rangers, which will be Power Rangers Beast Morphers. So keep it in mind if you're wondering when to expect the next episode to be. I would imagine August 25th, and then most likely the anniversary episode that people are suspecting will be on September 1st. That's what I'm suspecting. Don't hold me to that yet. Until we have official confirmation, I don't want to be the one to claim that to be a fact until we know for sure. But that is important to remember. So as far as things go with this episode, was it good? It was actually pretty decent. They ended it in a pretty different way just because of certain events in this episode, so I'm not trying to say it right up front, but in the episode review itself, I will definitely make it clear to you if you're wondering what exactly happened. That was pretty exciting. They left it on a cliffhanger, which I appreciate that because that leads to suspense and people getting excited for what will happen in the fall, which is never a bad thing because, I mean, Super Ninja Steel so far has been okay, and the fact that they went for something big like they did for this episode makes me much more hopeful for the future of the season, and makes me want to think that things will be better from here. So that makes me happy. So what we do end up seeing in the beginning of the episode is that the Rangers are in school. What happens is that apparently the teacher is going over something with the students, and what we end up seeing is that they're going to be going on a annual Summer Cove camping trip outside in the woods somewhere. And what happens is the teacher says that she will be providing them with compasses to find the location of the campsite. She also mentions the fact that she has this compass that she got from her grandmother that she loved so much, and also Brody mentions that he had a compass that he really used to love and he used to play with all the time when he was a kid. And the teacher says, we're not going to be playing with the compasses. So then following this, Victor and Monty arrive into the episode. They end up wearing some sort of nature outfit or whatever, and they're planning on going on this trip to capture the Summer Cove rhino that escaped from a zoo, apparently. And they say, the horn is like a banana, and they're trying to capture it. And what does end up happening is that they end up showing off a special kind of net that they're going to be using, or capturing tool that they're going to be using, which allows them to have a snare cannon, and they end up using it, and they're going to try to capture a skeleton that's in the classroom, but instead they actually capture the teacher and a couple of students. As they do this, what does end up happening is that eventually the teacher and the students are freed from the net. Victor and Monty are told that they will be in detention for what they did, and then following this, as the teacher looks over back at the compasses, she looks for her compass and sees that it's missing. So she begins to question who stole it, because clearly, she didn't put it anywhere, so where'd it go? Well, as they go around the room looking for it, they spot it inside Brody's backpack. And at that point, the teacher asks, how did you get that? And she begins to say, look, if you tell me the truth, I will not put you in detention. So at that point he says, well, I didn't do anything, so I can't tell you anything. So in other words, he has nothing to say, and she basically is, if you're not going to tell me, I'm going to put you in detention. So in other words, he gets in trouble for doing nothing, at least from what we know. So at that point, what does end up happening is that we end up seeing that while the students are away, we end up seeing that Sarah sets up a tent, and we also see that in the villain base, they're introduced to Rygor, the galactic ninja that will be in the episode. Rygor ends up accepting his ninja medallion, and he ends up having this dice block that he will be using to make it so that the Rangers can't determine what attack he'll use, because his attacks will be based off of a die block, and each move could be completely unrelated to the other one. So that's important as well to remember. So what does end up happening is that in the meantime, we end up seeing Victor and Monty in the school. We have Brody. They're all in detention. The other Rangers were originally going to offer to stay behind and stay with him, but Brody decides that they should go on without him. So what we end up seeing is that Victor and Monty actually climb through an air shaft and they're trying to escape, because the thing is that they go through the front entrance, security cameras will spot them, and then they'll be found out and they'll be getting more trouble. So what does end up happening is that they escape and they try to go and capture this rhino. So in the meantime, what happens is that we end up seeing that the Rangers are contacted by Mick, telling him that there are buzz cams in the forest and that maybe they should go and investigate. So they go and do so, and what we end up seeing is that a dice block appears. The Rangers see that it lands on the number 3, and Rygor ends up using a tea kettle attack to use on the Rangers. The Rangers do end up morphing, and what does end up happening is that several different attacks are used against Rygor. Eventually, Victor and Monty appear from the bushes, and they are planning on capturing the rhino because they notice that Rygor looks like this rhino that they're looking for. So as they begin to go and do that, Victor tries to attack him, and he eventually is let go. And he tries to do the snare gun and all that, but just things don't work out well. Eventually, Victor and Monty are caught in their own snare trap, and the teacher ends up catching them out of detention. In the meantime, what we also see is that Brody escapes detention, and he arrives on the scene hidden behind a fake wall, like backdrop or whatever, and he ends up taking a sack which Rygor uses to throw explosive tacks, like, not tacks, jacks, like, a jack and a ball or whatever. The old ball and jacks game or whatever. So what happens is that he ends up grabbing it, he ends up throwing it at Rygor and leading to a huge explosion going off that hits Rygor. Rygor then retreats, and then what we end up seeing is that when Victor and Monty are caught, Monty decides to show proof of this rhino that they were looking for, and what we end up seeing is that the teacher realizes that something was wrong in her analysis of Brody's situation. So what happens is that she ends up returning back to the classroom where Brody is, and Brody is just sitting there doing his work because he heads back shortly after the fight happens. When the teacher goes to the room or whatever, what happens is that she ends up playing the tape back that was of the recording that Monty had. And what they discover is that when the net that Victor shot at their teacher went off, it actually hit the compass into Brody's backpack, which meant that in reality Brody didn't do anything, Victor and Monty did something, and it led to Brody being framed for something that he didn't do at all. So that's kind of interesting. Brody is then let to go on the trip, and what we do end up seeing is that Brody joins the others. They end up fighting against Rygor again eventually, and what that leads to is a big fight where Rygor uses another attack with his die, and the Rangers end up deciding to multiply. So they actually use the Ninja Clone Star. They have doubles of each one of them. So they start off by doing a Ninja Slash attack, and then we have a Ninja Blast attack, and then we also have a couple other things like the Lion Fire mode is used as well. And they just completely destroy Rygor. So at that point, what happens is that Rygor is gigantified, and what we do end up seeing is that the Rangers summon the different Megazords. So they actually summon in the end the Ninja Ultra Zord. Brody gets to go on the top of it, while in the meantime we end up seeing that Calvin gets to use the Ninja Super Steel Blaster, which is very cool. The Rangers end up fighting Rygor. Rygor tries to do a big attack with his die block, but in this case, the Rangers stop him before he can do it. So then following this, what happens is that Rygor loses his Ninja Medallion. And as we know in previous episodes, Madame Odious collects it. But in this episode, it doesn't just end there. Instead, she collects that Ninja Medallion. Then Badana arrives with Venema, the 4th Galactic Ninja, who actually still has her Ninja Medallion. And what happens is that she ends up collecting that Ninja Medallion so that she has all 4 of them. Then she ends up using the Fox bots that we've seen in a number of episodes. And what happens is that Madame Odious uses her magic to transform the Foxbots into Foxtron, which is a robotic version of the Foxbots that is more humanoid and kind of like it looks like a Zord. So what happens is that she ends up using that. She ends up gigantifying it and then inserting the ninja medallions into the Foxtron, leading to it being very powerful and having the powers of the ninja medallions. So that's very important. And what happens is that as that occurs, Madame Odious then has command over Foxtron, basically allowing her to have a Fox Zord. So that's kind of interesting to see. The Rangers actually have to fight Madame Odious in Foxtron. Several attacks happen. Foxtron seems to be very powerful. In fact, it's so powerful to the point that the Ninja Ultra Zord defuses and becomes the Ninja Steel Megazord, the Bull Rider Megazord, and also the Lion Fire Megazord. So at first, the Ninja Steel Megazord and the Bull Rider Megazord end up separating Zords, and then that leads to the Rangers having to retreat. But then Brody still is there, and he has the Lion Fire mode. He's using the Lion Fire Megazord, and what happens is that Brody tries to deal with Foxtron, but it doesn't last long. And in the end, each of their Zords stars are actually burned, leading to them not being able to reuse them again. So in other words, they're in a pretty bad state. And as they're about to be destroyed by Foxtron, Foxtron stops working, and what happens is that Odious goes to speak to Venoma about why the ninja medallions aren't working anymore, and she says you have to charge them, and if you charge them by tomorrow, they should be at full strength. So by the time that it is the same time today, tomorrow, no problems, you'll be able to destroy the Rangers, there won't be any issues. So that's very interesting. The episode pretty much ends there with them having to say, like, you know, what will we do? We have to defeat Madame Odious by tomorrow. And yeah, things are going to be very interesting to see from here. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm curious as to whether or not that means Venoma will be used in episode 9, or will it be the case where it'll be all focused on them trying to figure out a way to combat Foxtron. I'm also wondering if this will lead to the Blaze Megazord being introduced, or will they do something else that's original to power up the Ninja Ultra Zord. We'll have to wait and see, of course. I don't know anything for a fact right now. It would be cool if they went for the Blaze Megazord, but I'm not sure if that's what's going to happen. If this does happen, I'm also wondering if this will lead to a new villain being introduced. So in other words, like maybe Madame Odious will be destroyed, and then they'll have a new villain introduced that will take over as the lead villain. We'll have to wait and see, of course, but it could happen. Nothing is set in stone as of now, but that definitely is a possibility. Of course, there are other villains that are planned to show up, such as Brax. Brax might take over as the lead villain. That is definitely something to consider, but we'll have to wait and see what does end up occurring in the end. I don't know if Madame Odious will be done after Foxtron is destroyed, but we will definitely have to look forward to that. So I'd love to know your opinions. What do you guys think of this episode? Do you think this episode was really fun? Did you like the fact that it ended with a big cliffhanger at the end where we're wondering what will happen next? Were you upset that they decided to jump to the point that Venoma has already lost her ninja medallion, or what? Also, what do you think happened with Wolverine? Do you think that he's still around? Do you think that he'll have a role next episode, or do you think that he's done? You know, I'm also wondering about that myself, because that's kind of an interesting point now based off of this episode. You know, what will he do in the future? You know, will he have a function, or will he be forgotten? You know, it's sort of an interesting point. I'm sure he has a role because of how he exited his episode, but we'll have to wait and see. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe. I'd love to know your opinions of this episode, and I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, guys, I'm Crazy Samurai 71, and goodbye, guys.